Leadership is judged by nonverbal cues rather than skill, technical skill. So you might have already noticed this, that a lot of people get promoted that aren't as technically skilled as the other individuals, and you might wonder why. Well, there are several studies on this, and a lot of people don't realize that we've been studying leadership for ages, and there's a lot of good evidence and research on how leaders are chosen and how they are perceived at being leaders. And so one of the factors in leadership is the nonverbal cues. So sometimes we call this charisma, but essentially a lot of times it's called executive presence in the corporate environment. And it's sort of this like buzzword that a lot of people don't understand what it means. But what executive presence means is that it's the tone, it's the posture, it's the body language that tells me that you are competent, warm, but also sure. And so we are typically looking for those three things when we're assessing for leadership. And because the brain values those three factors over intelligence, which is sometimes difficult to assess, right? It's not like I'm giving you an IQ study. Then often people who present with those three factors will get chosen over more intelligent, more competent people. One of the most important things to do if you're considering a leadership role, if you're wondering, why haven't I been promoted? And why have other people who are less competent than me been promoted over me? One of the most important things that you can do is look at how historically other leaders have shown up. And so that might mean studying history. That might mean looking at different interviews of different leaders over time. And you will notice a pattern. There is typically a sureness to them, a hope, and a sense of competence. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually competent, but there's a presentation of competence, right? A sense of sureness. Because oftentimes what happens for individuals who are highly intelligent is that they see the world in a lot of gray. They understand that nothing is for sure, and there's a lot of complexity. And individuals who are highly intelligent are very good at articulating this complexity. At the same time, it can make you seem very unsure. Right? And so you can communicate in a way that sounds almost nervous. You sound a little bit confused sometimes, and you just don't communicate that same nonverbal sureness, right, to the people that might be assessing whether you should be a leader or not. And so one of the most important things that you can do for yourself, if you're trying to get promoted, if you're trying to lead a team, if you're trying to be successful as a leader of human beings, because human beings have a lot of bias and you have to conform to it. Like, you can't just change the human mind. You can't be like, snap. Now people think that someone who speaks with a lot of contradiction and verboseness is all of a sudden like a really good leader. Like, the brain doesn't work that way. What you need to do is you need to make sure you know how you come off. And so that's why it's so important to film yourself, to review it, to ask for feedback. At the same time, compare yourself to leaders you have admired historically. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to be like Winston Churchill or something like that, but you need to assess this and you need to understand how you come off, because one of the other factors that's really missing in a lot of really, really, really intelligent people is that they expect the human mind to work like a machine. They expect someone to meet you and understand how competent you are and to choose you to be in a leadership role. That's not how the human mind works. We work on a lot of bias, and you have to conform to that bias, and you have to conform to sort of the illogic of the human mind in order to be chosen to lead a bunch of humans.